Alright guys, we are well and truly into the business end of this championship season now. After the mayhem of the Easter weekend, we're back for the regular championship fixture list with all 24 teams playing over the course of this weekend. And as always, I want to get your guys' verdict on everything down below. Plenty to discuss, some great matchups to come, and without any further ado, let's jump into them. And it's a huge match to kick us off, Middlesbrough against Norwich. It was Middlesbrough who managed to salvage that point against Bristol City last time, having been 2 goals down, and Norwich failing to find the back of the net against Rotherham, ultimately that one finishing level. Both teams could really do with all 3 points here. From Middlesbrough's perspective, they have become increasingly leaky at the back, and I do think Norwich will score a goal in this game. Generally speaking, Middlesbrough have been really good at the Riverside so far, and we've seen countless opportunities missed by this Norwich side to capitalise on the stuttering form of the sides above them. Despite that, they're still very much in the playoff race right now, and this could be a potential dress rehearsal for a semi-final we could get in the not too distant future if Norwich do manage to sneak into one of those playoff places. And for a prediction in this one, I think I'm sitting on the fence, you know. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here. I think both sides will score, but I'm not sure either one will blow each other out of the water. After that, to Brom Lane for Sheffield United up against Cardiff. Sheffield United will be without Fotheringham, but still the overwhelming favourites coming into this match. And what Sheffield United need to take advantage of is their next 2 championship fixtures, both being at home. If they pick up 6 points from those 2 matches, they'll be in a really strong position to go ahead and seal up that second place spot. Favourable fixture for them. Cardiff have been a little bit stuttering, and they'll have a nervous look over their shoulder at the moment. Just 1 place now between themselves and the relegation zone, with Reading currently taking up that spot in the bottom 3 due to their point deduction. It's the sort of game where I don't think there'll be that much between them, and I think that Cardiff will look to keep Sheffield United at bay for as long as possible, but I just see the Blades' attacking quality getting them over the line in this game. Score prediction there, I'm going to go 1-0 Sheffield United, which isn't great for Cardiff's survival hopes. Next then, to Blackpool against Wigan. It's the bottom 2 facing off against each other, and a game which really could go any way. It's a Blackpool side who can't stop conceding goals at the moment against a Wigan side who really have struggled to hit the back of the net, so God knows what's in store for this one. In fairness to Blackpool, there was a little bit more of a competitiveness about them, I think, in that Luton performance, obviously with McCarthy departing, Stephen Dobby taking over that side until the end of the season. Will look to instill a few different ideas, and I'm sure that could give the Blackpool crowd a little bit more of a lift. I don't think they were really behind McCarthy from the get-go. But this is the sort of game where I'm not expecting a great spectacle. Blackpool have been technically the worst side in the league so far this season when we think about points recruited. Had it not been for that point deduction for Wigan, it would be Blackpool who would sit rock bottom right now. I could see both teams scoring in this one due to how flimsy they've each been in opposite areas of the pitch. But for a score prediction, I'm going to go for an unhelpful draw, I think. 1-1, I'm saying, between those two, which does no one any favours. After that, onto a massive game at the Den. It's Millwall against Preston. Millwall falling out of form at a crucial point of the season, and the opposite can be said of Preston, who have come out of nowhere into the playoff picture. Now level on points with Millwall, this game at the Den has so much riding on it. Now from a Preston perspective, I'm a little bit gutted that Ched Evans is out for the season now, because this away at Millwall would have been the perfect game for him to play with Tom Cannon alongside him. Troy Parrott's done that job recently of sort of dropping in as the number 9, but I don't think he does that as effectively as someone like an Evans, who I think would have been really good up against that Millwall back line. Millwall just struggling to break down teams and have that final bit of quality. They're having plenty of shots at the moment, but not quite getting anything over the line. It's the sort of game where Preston come into it with all the momentum and a really good away record at that as well. But it does have to be said that our fixture list gets considerably more difficult from this point onwards than it was in our previous 10 games. So this is really where our steel will be tested. For a score prediction in this one, I'm going to sit on the fence, I think. But in these head-to-heads between playoff candidates, there's been a hell of a lot of draws so far this season. I'm going to go along with that thinking in this game. 1-1, I'm saying, between these two, but a win for either side will be a massive boost to each team's playoff hopes. Coventry could look to take advantage of a few of the playoff chasers playing each other this weekend. If they do pick up all 3 points against QPR, they'll suddenly put themselves right back in the conversation after a bit of a stuttering run after the international break. Obviously, they did manage to pull things back against Watford, having been 2 goals down in that one, and definitely have the attacking quality to blow any side in the Championship away. I'm not really sure what to make of QPR because they themselves did battle from behind. 2 quite quick-fire goals they conceded against West Brom did get it back to 2-2, but I still see mistakes in that back line with a side like Coventry and someone like Gyökeres who's primed and ready to take advantage. Another example of if a few early goals go in, the QPR crowd there is going to start to get a little bit nervous, as I sort of sensed in their last home game against Preston when we took the lead. Score prediction in this one, I can see QPR scoring, but I think Coventry's quality might just carry them over the line and a much needed win in that one. 2-1 Coventry, I'm saying there, which will be a big booster to them. After that, for Reading against Burnley, we've obviously had the news coming out that Paul Ince has parted company with Reading following their defeat away at Preston North End. And honestly, not a massive surprise. Pound for pound, Reading were possibly the worst side I've seen come to Deepdale this season in terms of the away teams' performances that I've seen this far into this season. I think I've seen pretty much all the teams in and around the bottom of the table come to Deepdale this season. No real tactical game plan to get themselves up the pitch. It was very much looked for a bit of a smash and grab sort of thing, and I'm not sure that's what Reading need at the moment, because it is worth saying that while Reading have had to put together a squad on the cheap with loan transfers, free agents and things like that, there is still a real quality within that core of that squad which can go ahead and beat the drop. But what they're going to have to do is battle against everything, because they do have some really tough fixtures coming up. Burnley this weekend, followed by a midweek game against Luton, which won't be easy. From a Burnley perspective, it'll be interesting to see if Company starts to tinker with a few things over these next few weeks in the Championship, as they have got over the line. They've not been necessarily blowing teams out the water in recent weeks as they have been doing previously, but I think they are the overwhelming favourites in this one. Regardless of the managerial change at Reading, I'm going 2-0 Burnley in this game. After that, for Rotherham against Luton, and this will be a good test for Luton here because Norwich failed to get through the test of Rotherham, so it'll be interesting to see how this Luton side stacks up to them at the moment. I'm expecting Rotherham to put in a spirited battling performance. Jordan Hugill been popping up with some real moments of quality for them recently, and when they do get themselves set in their shape, they can be very frustrating to set up against. I don't see Luton losing this game, but I do think there's every possibility that Rotherham manage to snatch a point. We always get a few unpredictable results towards this back end of the season, and we've seen Rotherham taking points off several top 6 challengers. With that being said, I think there's a different mentality about this Luton squad at the moment. They're on a fantastic unbeaten run, and it's another game where I think they'll grind out the results. So against some of the elements that Rotherham will pose, I'm going to go 2-1 Luton in that game. Stoke against West Brom. It feels like the atmosphere has soured quite considerably at West Brom after this recent run of results, and that throwing away that 2-goal lead against QPR really sort of epitomised where they're at the moment. They do have an opportunity to properly get themselves back in the race. Any team in and around the playoffs at the moment, if they string together back-to-back wins, they'll absolutely fly up the league table. But do I see West Brom doing that at the moment? I'm not sure. They've got 2 away matches coming up. This one against Stoke, followed by an away against Blackpool in midweek. And away to Stoke is just one of those nasty fixtures at the moment, which I don't think will completely play into West Brom's favour. Stoke have been somewhat fizzling out over the last couple of game weeks, but I still think they'll make a game of this one. Defensively, have looked really strong recently, and while they've not been as prolific since they put 4 goals past Coventry, I do still think they've got a goal or 2 in them. This one finishing level wouldn't surprise me, but I actually think Stoke may take this one on home territory to properly compel the misery after West Brom threw that one away against QPR last time. Score prediction there, I think I'm fancying a 1-0 Stoke, you know. Just something not quite right about that West Brom side at the moment. After that, to Sunderland up against Birmingham. Sunderland, another side who stand a real chance out of nowhere of making it into the top 6 because no one above them has really strung together that consistent run of results recently. Despite Sunderland themselves not being on the most prolific of run of forms, they stand a every chance, if they string together a few results, of properly making a name for themselves heading into these final game weeks of the season. Home match is going to be important because they have struggled to string together a consistent run of results at the Stadium of Light of late, and this game against Birmingham is another one which I expect to be quite tight. Birmingham will look to make this one quite compact. Their recent goalless draw against Stoke just lacked any sort of fizzle to it and tempo in the final third. Sunderland will bring that, but it's a question of whether or not Birmingham can nullify those threats and then look to snatch something on a set piece or a transition or something like that. My gut feeling tells me that I think Sunderland do string together back-to-back results here, and I'm going to go for another 1-0 for Sunderland, which will be massive for going ahead and keeping them active in the top 6 race. Swansea against Huddersfield will be interesting at this stage of the season. Warnock against Russell Martin, two conflicting styles of play, both of which have their strengths, and both sides in relatively decent form at the moment. I think that Swansea are still riding the crest of a wave after their South Wales derby triumph over Cardiff. It was another solid result for them last time. Joel Perreault on the score sheet with 2 nice finishes against Wigan. Up against the Huddersfield side, who are on a miraculous unbeaten run under Neil Warnock, who's been able to gradually guide them away from the bottom 3. The unbeaten run for Huddersfield continues. I see them getting something from this game, but I'm not sure it's all 3 points. I think I'm edging towards a draw there. Score prediction, going to go for a 1-1er, but I am going to keep a particular eye on that game with Preston facing Swansea next up in midweek. Next then to Watford up against Bristol City, and do you know what? Comparing Watford's remaining fixtures with fellow top 6 rivals, it really feels like these last couple of months have been a massive missed opportunity for them, because I actually think they've got a fairly favourable run in, but because they find themselves 6 points off the top 6 now, not exactly in form, I'm not sure I can even see them capitalising on those remaining fixtures. But of the remaining matches they've got to play, they've got this one against Bristol City, Cardiff, Hull, Sunderland and Stoke, and generally speaking I think that's a fairly decent run, and only Sunderland left to play, who are currently above them in the table. Bristol City will pose a threat in this sort of game though. I think they'll be quite good on transitions especially. Watford have shown their threats in the final third in terms of individual moments of brilliance. I thought we saw that from that game against Coventry, but there's just so many mistakes in that back line at the moment that I think this could be a bit of a Nigel Pearson smash and grab against his former side. So score prediction in that one, going to go 2-1 Bristol City, I think. And then to finish things off with Blackburn up against Hull. This is a game where Blackburn need to capitalise on, with some big games to come against fellow top 6 rivals. They need to be taking advantage of the games they've got remaining at Ewood Park and against a side like Hull, who realistically doesn't have anything to play for. With that being said, Hull have already thrown a real spanner in the works for several other top 6 chasers with that 4-4 draw against Sunderland, beating Millwall last time as well. I don't think they'll make it easy for Blackburn in this one. With that being said, Blackburn's second half performance against Huddersfield, while they didn't get all 3 points, I think will have filled the Blackburn fans with a little bit more encouragement in terms of the openings they created, how many shots they actually had in that one. And it feels like the sort of game where the first goal is going to be absolutely vital, because if Hull strike first, not the easiest of teams to get back into, with how defensively sound they can go ahead and be. I mean, we saw Darlow have an absolute worldie last time against Millwall. Score prediction in that one, I've got a feeling that Blackburn may just pull something out of the bag, but Hull have been a tricky customer for a lot of sides recently, so a draw wouldn't surprise me. Score prediction there though, I'm reluctantly just going to go 1-0 Blackburn, I think, but it's going to be close. But guys, there we have it. That will wrap it up for today's video. Some huge matches coming up this weekend in the Championship, and as always, I want to get your verdicts on all of these matches down below. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.